Welcome back to the class, everyone, and Merry Christmas to all, and a happy Conquest as well. Today what we want to do is go through and talk about some of the most useful teams for Conquest to help those of you who have maybe a smaller roster and trying to work on a budget with the things that you already have, or even if you have a larger roster and you're just trying to make life easier on yourself. Let's get into it. So first up, we are going to have our good friend General Grievous. And I like General Grievous for actually a lot of reasons. Number one, it's a fairly accessible team with none of the characters actually requiring Chirotech, meaning that it's more accessible to a lot of people. On top of that, it does this thing. This is going to be a popular theme throughout the video. It is very much a reactive team. What I mean by that is it doesn't need to have absurd amounts of speed to be able to go first and take control of the battle. Those type of teams, while they're typically good for PvP, are going to have a hard time in Conquest because when you get into the later sectors, they're wired to have like 400, 500 base speed sometimes, and the only way that you can catch up to them is by having what we call a reactive squad. What I mean by reactive is B2 is going to sit in stealth and behind Magna's taunt, continually gaining bonus turns whenever Magna takes damage, and then he himself is going to go and not only dish out some debuffs, but he's also going to be giving the rest of his team turn meter to boot so that they can eventually get a turn and take control of the battle. Nuta's here because he adds double the amount of turn meter when you hit target locked enemies because you will be dealing debuffs, and those debuffs will therefore be dealing more damage on top of it. The other thing that's very nice about the squad, and this is a feat we've seen almost every single time Conquest has come out, but there's typically a feat that it's called something like Hokey Pokey Religions or something like that, where you can't take a single Jedi, Sith, unaligned Force user, dark side or light side into the battle, and this team doesn't have any of those and typically has the capacity to beat some of the higher level teams that are going to be in those boss fights. So it ticks really all the boxes. It's reactive, so you're going to be able to use it in later sectors without needing them to be super god modded, or at least god modded as far as speed goes. It's accessible, and on top of that, you'll get to work out some of those pesky feats. Next up is going to be CLS. CLS, again, hits very much the first two aspects very well. It is more accessible with only 3PO needing Chirotech, and even then, or rather 3PO and Chewie needing Chirotech, and even then it's not even that much. One of the things that the CLS team will do is it will have a ton of counter chance. CLS himself will be at 100% assuming you don't swap chances, so you'll be able to go back and hit all the enemies that are hitting you in the first place. And then on top of that, CLS himself is also going to give and gain turn meter based off of his leadership and unique abilities. So you won't just be countering, you will eventually be able to catch up to what your opponent is doing and therefore take them out. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but this team also has quite a few debuffs, and that ends up being really nice for when and if you get a hold of Amplify Agony. I don't want to rely on that too much in this video because we don't know if that's actually going to be around for the long haul. It has been somewhat consistent in the last couple Conquests, but there's no guarantee that it stays around from here on out. Next up is going to be General Skywalker. I really like General Skywalker because he has the ability to take out a lot of the larger squads because typically the AI is not smart enough to not trigger 5 sacrifice. What I mean by that is they will go in, they will look for the weakest character, probably Rex or Echo, and when they defeat them, they will end up reviving all of their health and protection, getting all the speed from 5s as well, and then be that much harder to take down, and you can typically overwhelm the enemy. The only issue that I really have with the 501st squad in Conquest is they rarely 3-star things for me because every single time you lose 5s, you're getting taken down a notch. For a lot of people, that might not be the biggest deal because sometimes one of the bigger challenges in Conquest, it's not even the feats or just making sure you get all the way through it, but it's getting past that one specific boss that for whatever reason this time around is wired to be very hard. And while CLS and Grievous are great, they don't have the exact synergies to go around the AI. Gas can really help punch up through that. And also, you just need multiple squads because of stamina and whatnot. So Gas makes a pretty good team. Next up is going to be Bad Batch. And while Bad Batch really aren't that accessible even now, I realize they've been in the game for quite a while and are all accelerating and whatnot, but the team collectively takes like 2,000 Kairos, which is kind of ridiculous. But if you do have the squad, you invested them because you like them or because you're going into Lord Vader, they have a great advantage, not just in being a good Conquest squad in the sense that they will beat battles, but the team is chocked full of buffs and debuffs. And while the feats do change every single time that Conquest changes every 3 months, some of them do come back, and really, as long as you have one of the buffs or debuffs from the team, you'll be good to go. The team has the capability to gain stealth, they can gain evasion up, they can gain defense up, they can gain potency up, they can gain translation. They're not really short on debuffs either. They have target lock, they have stun, they have daze, they have healing immunity, they have exposes, they have a grand number of things that when you look through the whole squad, it's really easy to be able to use them in this conquest or the next one or the one before it, and be able to get some work on those debuffs or buffs that are in the feat sector. If you do have Omega on the team as well, or Omega, Wrecker will taunt, and that will help you, again, kind of hold your own against those teams that start with 400, 500 speed in the very beginning. Now, I don't really like to talk about Galactic Legends because I feel like they're pretty limiting, not just in videos about Conquest, but in videos in general. But Jedi Master Luke really can't go without mention here. He is one of, I would say he's the most powerful asset to anyone trying to do Conquest. Number one, yes, he is a Galactic Legend, so he gets a bunch of busted stats, a really good team, tons of damage. He gets all that good stuff that can help you get through those harder squads. But on top of that, he is the, what we'll call the weird, this is going to sound even weirder, the weird feat hero. And what I mean by that is every single Conquest, CG puts in there that you need 10 or 20 or 40 kills with whatever random light side character that would never otherwise get kills. I'm looking at you, Cal Kestis. I'm looking at you, Nisa. I'm looking at you, Grief. Like, they always end up in there. And as long as they're light side, Jedi Master Luke can do this amazing thing with his leadership ability where he can call any light side ally to assist and they will deal damage on his max protection, which is like super huge. And then when they do that, they get the count for the kill. So you can, whether it's Saw or Nisa or Mando or whoever, as long as they're a light side character, they will get the kill. And this is instrumental for me for getting feats, even at my like 11 million roster that really probably shouldn't be having this issue. But again, CG likes to target a lot of those characters that are either newer or a lot of people just don't necessarily have built up. So JML, great character in general. Obviously, Galactic Legends are going to excel in Conquest, but even beyond that, he helps you get through those kind of weird feats that you otherwise probably wouldn't even have a shot at getting, and that's been consistent throughout a lot of Conquest. Next up is going to be the Inquisitors. Now, this team is functional without Reva. Grant, if you use Grand in this slot, and then take Night Sister here. This is obviously the better version, but the squad is good in general. They'll probably win quite a bit of Conquest for you, but if you have the Amplify Agony discs, which are, as a reminder, those discs are the ones that convert debuffs into max health damage. This team shreds almost every team out there in seconds. The entire team starts with 6 stacks of Purge, and then on top of that, Grand Inquisitor will throw ability block or give all the buffs to your team, and then 5th Brother and 8th Brother will go deal their AoEs, and the whole team is already dead because of the stupid amount of debuffs that they can dish out right in the beginning of the battle. Not to mention, I guess 3rd Sister also has like locked healing immunity and stuff like that. So overall, just a brutal squad, very good. A little bit disc-dependent, but not really. The team can still have a ton of functionality. Again, not as universal as some of the first couple teams that we touched on, because they also do require a lot of chirotech, and your guild has to be very invested. But honestly, Inquisitors are amazing in PvP too, so it's worth getting them even just for that. They can take out Galactic Legends even without having the Omicrons in TW or in GAC. Next up is going to be Jedi Knight Luke. This is an older cheese, but it checks out. And basically what is going on here, and you don't have to use this exact comp, but you do want to be using Jedi Knight Luke lead. If you're going in against some challenging battles, Jedi Knight Luke's lead is going to reduce the enemy's speed to that of his own. And the really nasty part about this is the speed limitation will work until he has 39% stamina or 40% stamina, which means the more battles you go through, mine's actually pretty fast. You can mod him slower than this, and that's probably more ideal, but you can mod him as slow as like 120 speed. As you keep using him and he's reducing the enemy's speed, his stamina will go down, and when his stamina goes down from battle to battle, his base speed is also going to drop, and you can get it to the point where he has 80 base speed. You're having Hoda or Yoda or whoever go in the beginning of the battle and call him in, and then all of a sudden, all these Conquest teams that are used to, again, having ridiculous speeds like 300, 400, 500 are now stuck at 80. because of Jedi Knight Luke. And really, I remember when this first happened, and we really thought they were just going to completely get rid of it, and they didn't. They just got rid of it once he hits 40% stamina. So as long as you're above that, feel free to use it. It's a great asset, especially if you're having to use the team every single day. His stamina will likely stay in that lower end of 40, 50, 60%. Next up is going to be the Phoenix team, again, with the theme of being reactive. So I realize this is a newer team, well, kind of newer, older team for a lot of people, with Krex now being a new addition. And how it works is that our good friend Krex here is going to gain 5% turn meter per debuff, and all allies recover 5% health and protection whenever a debuff comes out. This is particularly great because not only are you gaining turn meter to eventually catch up with the enemy squad, but on top of that, you're also recovering health and protection so that you're actually alive by the time you get there. He will then give his whole team turn meter, in which Sabine can keep it going by giving the enemy stagger with her AoE. Kanan can give more turn meter because when this dispels, it gives more turn meter to all of his Phoenix allies. Chopper will be assisting this entire time, reducing everyone's cooldowns. And then Hera is kind of a fun leader that has to be there in the first place. And ultimately, the team's going to do something very similar to, say, what CLS would do, in the sense that you're getting bombarded, but you're gaining turn meter in the process. You're getting those counterattacks, you're getting the cleanses, and you're able to really fight back against what's at you. And again, this is in the more accessible category than, say, Inquisitors or Bad Batch, and kind of giving you a leg up. So those are the 8 teams that I would highly suggest for Conquest. Obviously, you can use any number of them, but these have been staples for my roster. I know a lot of rosters out there. But thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay awesome.